Guys, we haven't talked about the Z Fold 6 in round about a month, and that was absolutely an intentional decision that I made. The rumors were getting so hard to track and so confusing that I decided just to step back and kind of let the dust settle a little bit instead of potentially directing people in the wrong direction. In this video today, I'm going to take you through all of the biggest rumors regarding the Z Fold 6 and try and kind of catch up a little bit. And to do this, we're going to be jumping through several different articles. And let's start off sammobile.com. They say exclusive date revealed for Samsung's next Galaxy Unpacked event. That's where it all starts, right? They have to announce the thing first, and this is what we're talking about in this article. Samsung's next Unpacked event is apparently going to take place on July the 10th. And I believe that actually is a little bit earlier than we typically see these events, and that should maybe lead towards a slightly earlier release for the Z Fold 6 and Z Flip 6 devices. Typically, the Z devices are released in early August, but since this event is in early July, there's a chance we could see a release in late July instead, although early August would not be that far apart. So we're not too far off from having these devices announced, and that is definitely a good thing. I do want to quickly show you, though, that we do have CAD-based renders of the Z Fold 6 device as well to look at. This is from OnLeaks via SmartPre, or maybe I should say SmartPre via OnLeaks, and you may notice there's not a whole lot changing about this device compared to the Z Fold 5. There are a few notable changes. It is more squared off, right? So instead of being rounded, it is adopting the sort of square look of the S24 Ultra. In terms of the specifications, though, there's not a whole lot about this thing that's going to blow your mind. It is going to be presumably running the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, but we're sticking with probably 12 gigs of RAM, and you may notice that the camera setup is identical to the camera setup of the Z Fold 5. That is going to be a little disappointing for some people who are wanting their very expensive folding phone to have the best possible camera. Those of us who maybe have moved on to devices like the OnePlus Open, where OnePlus has used a very similar camera setup to their flagship devices, that may again rub people the wrong way. Similarly, the battery is remaining 4,400 milliamp hours, so they're not increasing the size of that battery very much, actually leaving it exactly the same. For me, the bigger concern, rather than the size of the battery, would be the charging speed. I've not seen anything super firm on that, but given what's gone on with their other devices, I expect it's probably going to be remaining the same as well. 4,400 milliamp hours and probably somewhere in that 25 watt wired charging. It's what I'm expecting. A couple more interesting things, though. We do have back in January, Samsung Display trademarked a term, Iron Flex. Now, we don't know exactly what that means, but the fact that it was trademarked by Samsung Display, hopefully this means some new tech in the folding screen area that makes this thing a bit more durable, although I think we should expect maybe this is just a marketing term. Maybe we're going to hear a lot more marketing about AI features as well. I think we've already seen on websites like Amazon and different listings for the Z Fold 5 that it is now referred to as an AI phone. That kind of thing is going to be leaned into very, very heavily. Speaking of being heavy, though, one big thing that I'm hearing is that the Z Fold 6 might be dropping quite a bit of weight, going down to 239 grams. Once you use a folding phone like the OnePlus Open, which is in a similar area in terms of weight, it does become a bit difficult to go back to the heavier Pixel Folds and Z Folds of the world. That is a big weight reduction from the Z Fold 6. A couple of other notes. It is expected to be a little bit wider than the Z Fold 5, but we're talking about a very, very slight amount. You can see that cover display back there. It is still more narrow than a normal phone screen. That does not appear to be changing. Like I said, slightly wider, but not a lot. Now, all of that is pretty straightforward and more or less what I would be expecting from a Z Fold 6, but this is where things get a little bit strange because we have lots of rumors swirling in different directions about additional models of the Z Fold 6. So all the way back in February, we got a tweet from Max Jamber, who is a pretty reliable tech leaker, and they simply tweeted Q6, Q6A, and B6. Obviously, context is needed there, but what we're talking about is the fact that there is a Q6A code name within Samsung. And apparently that Q6A could be representing an ultra version of the Z Fold 6. Now, Android Headlines is reporting that Q6A is model number SMF958N. You can see a snippet from their webpage there. Q6A is the market name, model information, model number is, as I just mentioned. Now, as you can see down here at the bottom, the reason they think this is an Ultra phone is because of this final digit here. With other devices in Samsung's history, if it ends in 8, it is an Ultra version of the phone. The S23 is 911. The Ultra model is 918. But pay special attention to that letter X and letter N at the end. Those numbers tend to designate where this device is going to be released. While this is an extremely interesting thing to think about, an Ultra version of the Z Fold 6, the fact is so far they've only been able to find a version with the letter N at the end, means it may be releasing in South Korea only. Now, this is not an altogether shocking development. Samsung has been releasing sort of slightly more premium versions of the Z Fold devices in other regions for quite some time. Look up the Samsung W24 and you'll see exactly what I mean. Typically, these devices, spec-wise, are almost identical. Maybe they've got a bit more RAM, some premium materials being used, maybe some special colorations and things like that, and they sell them at a premium price. Is this going to just be that sort of thing with a new name slapped on, or will it actually feature some premium features, a better camera, something like that? That is doubtful to me. What I'm expecting is basically a special edition of the Z Fold 6 with that potentially Ultra moniker releasing in South Korea. I don't think we should be getting our hopes up too much about this this particular part of the rumor. But at the same time as that's happening, this Q6A device, we have rumors pointing in another direction. We have the Elec and CISA Journal, who are both South Korean publications. This is, of course, the home nation of Samsung. Hopefully that means they have some insider information. And they are claiming that there's going to be a cheaper version of the Z Fold 6 released instead of a more expensive version, or maybe in addition to a more premium version. As you can see here, the entry-level model of the Z Fold 6 will be introduced for the first time this year, expected to be released September or October, so actually later than the main version. If we go to this next one, this is from CISA Journal. Samsung Electronics expects to launch an entry-level foldable phone. They're both citing sources within, quote-unquote, the industry, whatever that means. But again, ideally, these publications being in South Korea, they're going to potentially know something about what Samsung is doing. And of course, they're reporting that there is a cheaper model coming, with CISA Journal going as far as saying an $800 price point is in the target for this cheaper Z Fold 6 FE model, which I think would be absolutely incredible to see. Personally, I think this is exactly the direction Samsung needs to be headed in. Rather than making an even more expensive version of an already prohibitively expensive device, making a Z Fold that is more entry level, something that more people can justify buying, makes a ton of sense. Do a few things to get that price down. We've seen Qualcomm actually announce a mid-range processor very recently, which is kind of a cut-down version of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, if I'm remembering correctly. I'll throw something up here on the screen to show you what I'm talking about, because I can't remember the name off the top of my head. That does make a lot of sense for a device like this. You could potentially remove the S Pen digitizer to make the device a little bit thinner and a little bit cheaper as well. Reserving that S Pen for your highest end model makes a lot of sense. Now, as someone who is literally at this very moment going through a bit of a struggle with a particular OEM about a broken folding phone, which I believe quite strongly was a faulty device, having it be only $800 instead of $1,800 would definitely make that experience a whole lot less stressful to go through. Don't get me wrong, $800 is still a lot, but it's not $1,800. So guys, those last two things are pretty hard to pin down exactly how true they're going to be. I do think that we should be expecting pretty much exactly what I've outlined for the Z Fold 6, but whether or not we see an FE model and what that means, an Ultra model and what that means is still very much up in the air, but you are caught up. Those are pretty much all the biggest, most sort of hammered down rumors about the Z Fold 6. Subscribe for more content just like this. And until next time, stay nerdy, my friends.